Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Welcome to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Zach.
And I'm Pepper.
And what are we doing today?
We are giving our first impressions, or, well, it's not our very first impressions. We have played 3 games of this, and that is Charterstone.
That is Charterstone.
A Stonemaier game that has been not that word. Sitting on our shelves for nearly 2 years.
Yes, it has been sitting on our shelves for almost 2 years, just waiting to be taken out and played, because if you know anything about, well, especially me, and you and Mikhail as well, I think we all really enjoy a lot of the Stonemaier games, so this was one, I think when it finally got restocked on the Stonemaier website, which I think was right around early 2020, so the same time as the pandemic, I ended up ordering it, and then for a long time, just really didn't have the chance to play it because didn't really have a group. I mean, could have played it 2-player, but I purchased it in hopes to play it in a bigger group. So we finally got it to the table after almost 2 years, but I was still definitely looking forward to it. This one I had pretty high expectations for. It's a legacy game, and the only one, well, we kind of played 2. Sort of. We've completed one, started another. So we completed Clank Legacy and really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You can check out to see where it ranked in our games we played last year.
Yeah.
Because it might be pretty high. And then we also, me and you, played Pandemic Legacy Season 1. We started that.
Yeah.
We're a few months in, still working through it, but also have enjoyed that as well. So I was definitely looking forward to what this one had to offer. I think from the little I knew about it, it was probably going to be a little lighter than those and maybe not as heavy on the story.
Yeah.
So my expectations there weren't quite as high, but another game that I've at least played this year was the Stonemaier Rise of Fenris, or Stonemaier's Rise of Fenris. Scythe Rise of Fenris, and really enjoyed that. So I had pretty high expectations going into this one.
My expectations weren't that high. I'm surprised that they were that high for you. 'Cause I looked at this, maybe not fairly, maybe fairly, we'll see, as not that story, not that much story, not really going all in on what a legacy game can be. I looked at this more as just kind of add stickers, add different actions to the board type of thing, which isn't as fun sounding for me as something like Clank, where you're ripping up cards, reading story, going on missions type of things. And this is playable after the campaign. And I looked at it, maybe it's the cover or the artwork, but it didn't seem as, I guess I don't know, I don't want to say heavy, because I don't really look for heavy games, but it seemed maybe a little too light for a worker placement game, just from look. And so I thought it was kind of maybe subpar in both the gameplay and the story legacy aspect. So I wasn't overly excited for it, because again, I hadn't heard that much about it, but I mean, that could just be because it's a legacy game and people don't want to give spoilers. But we were actually surprised to see that it actually was in Tom Vasel's top 100 games a couple of years back. So that was surprising to actually hear that it's, I'm guessing that would mean loved, by some people, because I hadn't heard a lot about it.
Yeah, I feel like this one I don't see talked about nearly as much as some of the other ones, and that could be too, just because it's a little older. It's not really old, but considered older in the board gaming world, because it came out a few years ago now, at least. I don't remember exactly when. Was it 2018?
I'm not sure.
So, I mean, not old by any means. But yeah, that is interesting. That was one thing that I was a little concerned, possibly, was that it might be too light.
Yeah.
But do you like the cover?
I like the cover.
Oh.
I think it's a good cover. But it doesn't give me that kind of, like you talk about, that Stonemaier feel, like something like Viticulture or Scythe.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have that same look. It's a little more cutesy, and when you're talking about a worker placement game and cutesy, and they don't really kind of blend together too much in my head.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
But we played it.
We played a few games of it, back to back to back.
Yes.
Because it is a very snappy game. That's the first thing that I'll say.
Game.
It's very, very quick. And kind of depending on what you do, you can make the game go quicker or slower.
Yeah.
Kind of depending on how you play things. But my initial thought on how much I'd like to get this back to the table, and maybe you can tell based on the fact that we played 3 times in a row, at least this is the way I felt about it, was I'd give it probably a 8.5.
Ooh.
I wouldn't say it's like the most amazing worker placement game. Most of it is just pretty simple. Like most of the, I don't know what you'd call it, maybe like a Stone Age or something. Not like anything totally new or different for a worker placement game. It does have the bumping of workers, so you can get workers back, which I do like. I think that was used also in Euphoria by Stonemaier. So I did really like that, and I do like how you're trying to build these buildings to fill out your own little area, but then you can use other people's areas and kind of just trying to do as much as you can in a very little amount of time. And I just like how the board continues, the action spaces continue to be added to the game from game to game. I could see how, depending on how you play it, if you have someone that's like myself, I think over these games, I've almost filled in my entire area, but I feel like you three haven't or don't have quite as many.
I think I'm about half filled up.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Do I only have one space left?
Well, we can see your space right here.
Oh, boy.
You do have one space left.
Yes. So I felt like I was, depending on how people play, their playing styles, I could see how this could definitely be, once you're done and you're playing it after, it could be very different from anyone else's. Because I think if everyone was kind of doing that, we're trying to build out as quickly as possible, it's going to look very different than if you have one person doing it. Maybe one person isn't building as much in their own area.
Yeah, and I mean, it really changed it kind of what's available in the game and what different combos you can have for actions.
Yeah. So, and I like how that works. I like that there's some new things introduced in the game that allow you to get like some special benefits if you can get people to use yours. That's a very interesting thing to me, and kind of unique. How they kind of would stay there. They don't really get bumped off. But I do like how that works. There's just something cute about the game that I do like. I don't always like that look to it, but there's something about this one and the box. It just looks different, and something about it that just pulls me in, and I'd want to just play it over and over and over until we're done with that campaign for sure. And then I'd like to see kind of how it'll end up playing after the fact and how that'll feel. Because I think over the games too, our scores have slowly gotten a little higher.
Higher and higher. I think we ended up around the 50-point mark.
So it'll be interesting to see how that continues. If some of those, I'm assuming more actions we unlock, I'm guessing they're going to become better and better. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how the scores will continue to change from game to game.
I really like the artwork in the game too, and the characters that you can get. And again, spoiler alert, you do get to name some characters. That's always fun in a game. Name characters, name places. I really enjoy that, and I think it's going to change, like you said, as you score more and more points. But it's a quick game, and there are huge points that you can score in just one turn, especially earlier on. because there's a few core things that you want to do in the game about building and things like that, and it'll get you a good chunk of points, which ends up each one of them, because we started off, how many points did we get in our first game?
I think it was right around 20.
20 to 30 points, and each of those was worth 5 points. And so that was like a huge chunk. So early on, it felt like the winner could be decided just from the game ending this turn or next turn.
Right.
Because one person could just be one turn short, and maybe that's just because someone didn't bump them off of a space.
Right.
So they had to pull back, because you only have
two
workers, which is so limiting. So you,
it is very limited.
If someone gets their workers bumped quite a bit, I feel like they have a big advantage in the game. So that's one possible downside to the game, where it can feel like you're just not getting it to go your way. But overall, I do like the game. I like all the different spots, the building of the board. So I'm probably going to end up giving it maybe an 8. First impression.
Nice. I wasn't sure if you liked it. Based on what you had said, I wasn't sure if you'd like it as much as I kind of did. But it sounds like we're probably thinking around.
And also the components, the bits are great. Yeah. All the resources and metal coins are top-notch.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. And, yeah, like you had said, going back to a little bit, even though I had the most buildings and stuff, no one ever seemed to want to go to any of my action spaces. Almost never.
I remember you were setting it up to get us to go there and give you all sorts of benefits, but we never did until you pulled that off of there and no longer would gain the benefits.
Right. So, yeah, and that's, like you said, with only having the 2 workers, you kind of want to try to place them somewhere where you think someone else is going to go very shortly after you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like Michaela has some spot. I think all 3 of you kind of have some spots.
Yeah, my board
better than what mine are.
So populated, one of the games.
Better than mine are for some reason. And I don't know why that is, but then it seems like we all kind of go to those ones, and no one really likes to come to mine. But hopefully that'll change. Hopefully I'll get some good stuff.
No one wants to go to a place called The Pit.
That is true. I called my charter The Pit. But no, I'm definitely highly looking forward to this game, and I think based on these games, I'm really, really thinking about getting the recharge pack to possibly be able to start over and play it again after I'm done with this one, because I really enjoyed it, and like I said, the turns are snappy. I think that I don't know how many legacy games can play 6 players, but if you're looking for one that isn't like high strategy that you want to play with 6 players, I would highly, highly recommend this one, because the turns are so quick.
Yeah. I don't see it really getting that much longer.
No, not with those, because, like you said, there's 2 workers, so potentially 1/3 of the time you're going to just be pulling guys back.
How long would you say our games were, even our latest game? Like, with even farthest into the game?
Probably about an hour.
Yeah, 4 players at about an hour, maybe a little more. I think that's a great time.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think you're going to find that in many games, especially a legacy game.
Yeah, where you're just constantly getting more things.
So, yeah. I think we can both give that one our approval.
Yep. It surprised me. I will say it surprised me. I didn't think it'd be that high.
App? Would you recommend? Well, we haven't played the app, so you can't really recommend the app.
I recommend the app.
Supposedly the app's pretty. I think the app's pretty good. So
I considered getting it to get an advantage going into this.
So I mean, maybe that's an option too if you wanted to try it out first. Maybe look into that and see if it's kind of what you're hoping for, or the kind of weight, the meatiness that you're wanting.
With it plays, I think it would be decent on an app.
Yeah. Well, if you made it this far and you liked the video, you could definitely give us a thumbs up, or even a thumbs down if it was that bad. And if you're feeling generous, you can definitely show us some support by subscribing to see our next video. Who knows what we'll do next? You never know with us.
Eventually I'm guessing once we finish the whole campaign, we'll get together and talk about that some more.
Yeah, for sure. We'll have to get Michaela and Abby's thoughts as well. I'm not quite sure what they would have ranked it after their initial. I would guess it'd be around there.
Yeah, I
maybe
think so.
maybe slightly lower, but I think it'd probably be around there. But otherwise, thank you for watching, and as always, don't forget to
Keep on nibbling.
on our content.